Hello and welcome to the Rupeeting podcast. Today we've got here Chaitanya and Prateek.
Hi guys.
Hello. Today's topic is about cars, and we're not going to talk about which cars or car brands that are popular or cars that are currently doing the rounds or selling like hotcakes. We're talking about companies that make parts of these cars. So these are little known companies, but they make most of your car. So if you're buying a Suzuki, in all likelihood, several parts of that car will be made by different companies and it will all be assembled together by Suzuki. So effectively, while you know about Suzuki, you don't know about the hundreds of other companies that are actually making right from steering wheel to seats to airbags, horns, screws, switches, everything is made by other companies. And at Rupeeting lately, we've been liking companies that are more behind the scenes and not in front of the scenes. If you followed us through some of our previous podcasts, we've talked about Hindustan Foods, we've invested in, we can't say that. There are other companies like Xpro, PG Electroplast, which we track and like. And similarly, on these lines, today we're going to talk about a company called Uno Minda, which, of course, if you haven't been investing, you wouldn't have heard of. But it's one of the largest auto ancillary or auto component manufacturers in India, with a global presence as well. Recently, we also spoke of Samvardhana Paterson, so somewhere on those lines is Uno Minda as well. But before we start, none of this is investment advice. This is only meant for education and entertainment purposes, so take it in that light. For everything else that is associated with advice or investments, head over to rupeeting.com and pay up. Okay,
Let's play Uno.
Okay, Uno Minda. Do you know why Uno?
Number one, I guess.
Numero uno.
Uno is one, right?
And do you know why Minda?
Minda is the guy's surname, right? The founder.
The founder's last name. Cool. So Uno Minda, do you want to give a little bit of what they do? Let's start with that.
Why? Okay. So Uno Minda, basically as Sagar said, that they make different components of cars. So basically Uno Minda is into manufacturing switches, the alloy wheels which are used nowadays in cars, then batteries, fuel caps, and a lot more components. So I think it covers around more than 50% of the vehicle as of now. It started as a one product company, so it started in 1958. So they used to make ammeters for Royal Enfield. So basically ammeter is a component which shows how much electric current is passing through your bike while you are riding the bike. So yeah. So that, and then over the years they diversified into these switches, horns, and the latest addition to their portfolio was seating systems. So yeah, that they started in 2019 or 20. So yeah, this is what Uno Minda does. And then they have this small segment, consumer facing segment, which is the aftermarket segment, where they provide services for faulty parts or faulty components. So yeah.
But I think the components that you guys mentioned, they are also used in, apart from cars, like two-wheelers.
Yeah, two-wheelers, three-wheelers,
and all
yeah.
those things. So it's not only related to four-wheelers. That's also.
Yeah, so these guys are present across two-wheelers, three-wheelers and four-wheelers, commercial vehicles, buses, tractors as well. Tractors has been more of a recent addition, but they're present there as well. So total of, and within cars and two-wheelers also in different segments. So right from entry-level two-wheelers right up to luxury cars, they're present in several segments, including SUVs and whatever. And imaginably so, because auto parts, after all, can be quite fungible across car segments, or because the basic structure of a four-wheeler or a two-wheeler will be quite similar, right? So these guys, once they enter a particular segment, they can or have the ability to expand into several other segments in the interim. And one of those stories has also been their foray into EVs. So electric vehicles, again, while it is a completely different ballgame for car manufacturers overall, because it deals with the entire engine changes. For auto manufacturers, component manufacturers is not that big a deal. Right, so there are several parts which are very common for both internal combustion vehicles as well as electric vehicles. So just because the car has changed from its fuel source from petrol to electric does not mean its seats will change, does not mean its horn will change, right?
So the alloy wheels
or the wheels will change. So several parts, about 50% of Uno Minda's current product portfolio is something which can be utilized for both passenger vehicles as well as ICEs as well as EVs. However, there are several parts that are also required in EVs which Uno Minda is taking strides towards, but we'll come to that later. And Uno Minda, surprisingly, as Pratik highlighted, they're present in several such components. They are in fact the largest manufacturer for
switches,
vehicle switches.
Vehicle switches.
They are the largest also for horns.
In India, and they are second largest globally.
Yeah. And the third largest
in lighting systems.
In India, so we know how much we like to honk the horn. So that's a good business.
So while from 1958 all the way till now, the company has achieved so much and become one of the top 3 players in several auto components. We're going to talk a little about the future today and talk about what is going to drive the future growth for Uno Minda. And we see that happening in 5 steps. And we'll cover each of these 5 steps one by one. The first I'll take, then we'll hop. The first being the value of the component itself. So if you've noticed that in any car, the way of seats have gone, whether it is massage systems in the seat or temperature control or even
seat
warmers, or look at the infotainment system. From basic functionality, it has gone to so much more now. So that is true for a lot of components in a car, because cars are getting smarter and they're getting more premium and they're getting more feature packed. And Uno Minda has been on the front foot when it comes to all these developments. And it is a natural, so it's got a very strong R&D department, and it keeps launching new products which are used by other OEMs and vehicle manufacturers. So over time, just because a certain component is getting more feature packed, the value of the product itself increases and Uno Minda's revenue share also goes up. So that is a very natural tailwind for Uno Minda, as long as their R&D capabilities are top notch, which the company has been investing in very heavily since its beginning. Right. So number one reason why Uno Minda will continue doing well is strong R&D and most of its components becoming feature packed. Switches and wires and cables can't get feature packed, but obviously seats and lighting for example.
But in switches also, I think there's a lot more additions, because nowadays cars, what earlier used to be was you used to use those lever kind of things to just pull back your seat or whatever, but nowadays in most of the cars you have those small switches which you press or just push backwards. So there has been addition of switches as well in the cars. But
so the whole shift from more mechanical to more electronic is resulting in higher use of switches, which will also benefit Uno Minda as time goes forward and more features get added into cars. So number one reason we think is a very natural premiumization within cars and features that will result in benefits for Uno Minda. Number 2, Pratik.
Number 2, okay. So Uno Minda over the years has grown organically for sure, but then there's one strategy which they have been using of collaboration.
So other than premiumization, Uno Minda also expanded its product portfolio, right? As you mentioned earlier, it's gone from switches all the way to airbags and beams and stuff like that. So this expansion from only making one product to covering 50% of the vehicle now has come from organic as well as inorganic initiatives.
So organic growth the company has been doing, but then there's one more strategy, as Sagar said, that the company also focuses on inorganic growth. So over the years, I think within the last 10 years or 8 to 10 years, the company has done at least 6 acquisitions which have helped them enter into newer products or helped them better their existing product portfolios. So I think some of the notable ones are, so they acquired this one company called Clayton Horn in 2013, which was already a leading manufacturer of automotive horns in Europe. So because of that acquisition only, Uno Minda became the second largest horn manufacturer globally. And then I think in 2016 they acquired the lighting business of the Render Group. So Render Group is basically an automotive group in Spain. It is a Spain-based company, and because of that, they bettered their lighting portfolio. So they got into LED lights, so which we can currently see in most of the cars nowadays. So it was thanks to this acquisition, Uno Minda could get hands to newer lighting products or better lighting products. So yeah, and then so there's this company called ISIS RTH. It's a German company.
There is no relation to Hitler, by the way.
So yeah, they acquired that company in 2018, which gave them access to the infotainment systems or the systems engineering and some electrical units. And this company was already a supplier to companies like BMW and Rolls-Royce, so they also get this.
No, but I think this is particularly important one, because I was just researching that the electronic control unit which this company used to manufacture, that is like a brain for the engine. So it's like how our brain, the neurosystem send all the messages across our body. The same thing is done in the engine by this ECU unit. So that is actually commendable, and the fact that it was used in BMW and Rolls-Royce is also very good one.
So they already get access to the clientele.
Yeah, exactly.
And capabilities to probably develop products for other companies as well.
So once you have companies like BMW and Rolls-Royce,
it shows about the quality of the product. So and then there was this another company called Delvis, again a German company in the lighting business. Then recently they acquired the telematics division of KPIT, and through that division they got the telematic product and as well as the other products for school buses basically. And with that deal, KPIT, so this company Uno Minda became a supplier for KPIT for all its telematic products. So now they have a long-standing relation now, and which will go on for years as well. And then the latest addition to that product, which was the seating systems, so they entered recently in 2019. So they entered this through an acquisition only. So there is this company called Harita Seating Systems, and it is a large company. So it has around 12 manufacturing plants in India itself. So yeah, to getting such big manufacturing facilities, so the company could enter into the seating system, and this company already manufactures for TVS Motors, Tata Motors and Daimler. So yeah, collaborations has been an integral part of the growth journey of Minda, and apart from the acquisitions, the company over the years has done 12 joint ventures and 2 technical agreements. So yeah.
So notable is also the fact that a lot of these acquisitions that these guys do are larger compared to the existing division of whatever they're acquiring in. Mm-hmm. So the lighting system company is larger than what the lighting system division of Uno Minda itself was. Mm-hmm. So these guys have a habit of sort of eating larger than what they already have, and multiply the amount of revenue they're getting from that particular division, significantly scaling their presence up. So that's been a commendable sort of feat to seamlessly acquire these companies and assimilate them within the Uno Minda ecosystem and continue growing at a high pace.
Yeah, the integration becomes important, because if you're not able to integrate the company, it might cause problems for you in the future.
Yeah, but and I'm coming to the third point. So the natural transition for any automobile companies nowadays is, of course, the electric vehicles. So without that, there's nothing to do in the future if you're not into EVs. So Uno Minda also, along with their own IC business, they also ventured into electric vehicles. So EV in that, also again India and globally, both they are present in EVs. But to start off, they initially focused on low voltage EV products because it's easier to product and there is not so much specialization in it. So they ventured into that, and specifically for 2 and 3 wheelers. Here they started with them, and then the product for segment they gradually increased to battery management system, which is like basically to ensure the vehicle doesn't go firing, and on and off board charges, then cables and other systems like smart plug. All the systems that they're present in other segments like telematics and acoustic vehicle. Nowadays we see Ola speakers. So, and there's something called DC-DC converter, which is very interesting. Basically, it just converts the DC to DC, but the voltage is different among that. So, I thought there was a typo first, but it's a DC-DC converter. But yeah, so in the last just 1 year, the EV segment has grown by 2.5x, which is now close to 1300 crore, which is like 10% of their revenue. So, which also shows that the company is showing it into a revenue form itself that they are venturing into EVs. And going forward, it also looks bright because they have a great order books worth 2500 crore, which is like currently 3.7x their EV revenue. So that, and 70% is only EV. It's not like tech agnostic like we used to discuss. It's only sold based on EV. So, and rest, of course, 30% is the tech agnostic product.
Yeah, but then I think in EV also they have made a few good partnerships recently. So in 2021 they entered into a JV with this German company called Frevo. So which manufactures battery and stuff. So because of that only, so I think the revenue potential is to have around like 1500 crores or 1600 crores in the next 5 years. So I think this JV started in 2022. So by 27 alone, this particular JV might give them revenues of 1500 to 1600 crores. And then last month itself, they entered into another agreement with Star Charge. So this company's name is Star Charge. So they will provide home charging solutions. So yeah, you can.
I think that is the next leg of growth for charging.
Because obviously, yeah, you will need home charging for your cars, whoever buys EV. So yeah, these are the two notable partnerships which the company has in the EV segment, which will help them grow their EV revenues. So yeah.
Then after EVs, one more thing that they did was, obviously they've got this large product portfolio and expertise in several components. Natural extension for the company was to enter the B2C aftermarket segment. So while they're manufacturing these products and selling it to OEMs, it also makes sense to service these parts once the sale is done. Because you know the part very well, you've manufactured it, you fit it into something, you obviously can repair it as well. Where comes the aftermarket services? Do you want to...
Should I take that? Yeah, so I thought
you were so enthusiastic about it first. No, you want to skip everything and come to aftermarket. Now talk.
Yeah, so the company is already a leader in providing components to OEMs, and as Sagar said, it is natural to transition towards servicing customers as well. So the company entered this particular segment in 2016, and within 8 years or so, they have reached the quarterly revenue run rate of around 300 crores, and it has around 6,500 SKUs in its portfolio and 1.5 lakh workshops spread across the country and 6 other regions also where it exports its products. So yeah, it is growing, and it provides aftermarket services mainly for the alloy products or the infotainment systems and also the seating and the braking systems. So yeah.
So small in revenue at this point in time, but obviously growing very, very fast for these guys. And finally, the fifth growth driver that we see for Uno Minda is organic growth and the amount of capex. While Pratik mentioned how much they have been peddling on the whole inorganic side by acquiring, partnering, forming JVs and stuff like that, the next 2 years is going to be determined by how much organic growth they will exhibit. And the quantum looks very, very high compared to the current standing.
So I think they have announced close to 2,500 crore worth of capex, which some will get commercialized in FY25 and some will FY26. So majority of it is in the four-wheeler segment. So starting out with four-wheeler alloy wheels, so they have done around 700 crores just for this particular, and it is expected to start some in FY25 and some in FY26. Then there is four-wheeler lighting, four-wheeler switching. There is another 500 crore worth of capex there. Then airbags, which is important because airbags is now something that we know is going to be compulsory.
मेरे को पुणे याद आ गया airbags से.
Obviously, because he is a builder's son.
Oh yeah.
He's not
a
underage.
Porsche.
He's not got a Porsche. He's got pata nahi.
High rider.
You'll figure in the news reports.
What the fuck? But yeah, coming to the capex, airbags seat belts, so which are safety ingredient, which I think is going to be mandatory going forward, thanks to the Pune incident. So yeah, but the total of 2500 crore worth of capex, and going by their historical asset turnover, which is like around 3.5x, so that itself generated around 90 to 100 crore worth of revenue, which is like 71% of the FY24 revenue. So that's how they are also planning very well for the next level of growth, I think, through capex.
Yeah. So basically about 70% of current revenue is what you can expect as an addition to the current revenue run rate, just by the amount of capex that these guys are doing, assuming that the fixed asset turnover ratio remains the same.
Yeah.
Which obviously may differ given that the products that they are incurring capex for are very different compared to what historically they have a presence in.
Also, utilization will also matter because sometimes.
But basically, even stuff like switches, for example, will have much higher fixed asset turnover ratios compared to something more complicated like a seat. Right?
But the value addition will make up for it in that case then. Because switches cost and the seat cost will also be lower.
But that will be same for capex also, right? The amount of machinery required for that will also be higher. So probably the fixed asset turnover may remain same, may not remain same. But for
that we have
back of the envelope calculations, 70% of revenue can get added over the next 2 years just by current capex. So historically, the company's grown at about at least the last 2 years, they've grown at 17% revenue CAGR, which has last 5 years is 17%. Last 2 years has been even higher. They've grown at a 25-30%.
After that came because of the chip shortage and all those things.
Yeah. So last 2 years have been even higher growth. And if this capex materializes and comes up on time over 25 and 26, then you can expect historical run rates to continue. But overall, I wouldn't be surprised if the company grows even faster than that, because there are several factors in place for the company to grow very fast, right? So 3 factors we've already spoken about. One is that the product value itself keeps increasing. The number second being that the product portfolio expands. Third being that the company is expanding capacity in existing products, which itself will give you more growth. And then you've got the whole newer avenues such as EVs and aftermarket services. And on top of that, you are placed in a sector where, as automotive sector, you might see high single digit or double digit growth, but that is for the end car. However, you have to understand that these are auto component manufacturers, and these guys don't only have the Indian market as
their
customer base, but they also have a global presence. And increasingly, companies globally are focusing on India as a manufacturing hub, and the government is also pushing very hard for it. So if you look at some of the couple of government initiatives that have come out, one is on PLI, which will benefit these guys, including all other auto component manufacturers. And the second is also to boost internal domestic manufacturing itself. There are restrictions being put on export of several products that are currently coming from China. And a notable example is of
anti-dumping duty on alloy wheels, I think.
Yeah, specifically from China, originating from China or being traded through China.
Which is, I think, the organic comparator of India, the biggest one.
Yeah, and since Uno Minda has recently got presence in alloy wheels, this acts as a benefit because the duties have been placed for a period of 5 years. So all of these tailwinds, both PLI as well as anti-dumping, have a 5-year leeway for Uno Minda.
Plus India's rising consumption, the premiumization trend, and
all those common trends that you hear with every investing product that applies to this also.
Demographic too.
Yeah, demographic, socio-economic, political stability, blah blah.
Per capita.
So envelope factors plus company-specific factors all are seriously working out towards Uno Minda, making this a very interesting stock. Something that can be added to a watch list.
And can be added to your vehicle maybe.
वो तो ऐड होके ही आएगा. मैं थोड़ी बोलूँगा कि मेरे को उनो मिंडा का पार्टी चाहिए.
That's why I said can be, not that you want to.
Not can be added. The next time you will notice that your car has Uno Minda products.
Inside the engine, na, then how would they be able to?
Seat पे होगा ना.
Infotainment system वगैरह कुछ तो मिल जाएगा.
Let's see. Yeah, that's it.
All right, that's a wrap.
See you guys. Bye.
See you next week.